Hello, buddy. Welcome back to the Tin Man Score channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm reacting to my third and final Creepy Diaries video for you guys, and this was titled, I Went on a Vacation to Hell, 3 Creepy True Vacation Horror Stories. So without further ado, I'm going to turn these lights off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road in the bag, shall we? Okay, here we go.
Living in the quiet, unremarkable town of Cedar Ridge, nothing much ever happened. The biggest event was the annual finish of the Iditarod, our local dog sled race. But I was 17, itching for something more exciting, something that would take me beyond the confines of our sleepy little town. So when my dad suggested a family trip to Las Vegas, I was thrilled. A city of lights, action, and endless possibilities awaited us.
You know, years ago, I would have thought about going to Vegas myself, but here's the thing. It's too hectic over there and too noisy. And the town that he's staying in seemed like a good place to go to. It be more quieter and a perfect place to get away from everything, you know.
We booked a room at the Mirage, one of the most iconic hotels on the Strip. The moment we arrived, I felt a rush of excitement. The bright lights, the bustling crowds, and the sense of adventure were intoxicating. But after a few hours in our luxurious hotel room, I grew restless. Watching the fake volcano erupting from my window wasn't enough. I needed to explore. "Dad, I'm going to check out that water show down the street," I told him. He nodded, reminding me to stay safe. I stepped out into the neon-lit night, the air buzzing with energy. I wandered along the Strip, marveling at the extravagance of it all. As I passed Caesar's Palace, I noticed a narrow, dimly lit walkway. Most people seemed to avoid it, but curiosity got the better of me. Halfway down the walkway, a man stepped out of the shadows. He was slightly taller than me, with a dark complexion, wearing a cap, a faded Jimi Hendrix t-shirt, and cargo pants. "Hey man, can you spare some change?" he asked, his voice rough but polite. Caught off guard, I stammered, sorry, I don't have any cash on me." He gave me a nod and a half smile before walking away. Relieved, I continued my exploration. But as I reached a pharmacy to buy a Rockstar energy drink and a candy bar, I noticed him again, lurking at the end of the aisle. Was he following me? Trying to shake off the paranoia, I paid for my items and left. As I walked back toward the Mirage, I kept glancing over my shoulder. The man was still there, always at a distance, but unmistakably following me.
Oh, crap. It's one of them guys that was planning on robbing you, and when you told him you didn't have no change on you, he just said all right and left. But now he saw you getting an energy drink, a candy bar. He's going to be following you to a point in the street to where he could just probably either kidnap you or actually rob you of your belongings. I don't know what's about to happen here, but I'm already thinking that's probably the scenario that's going to go down.
Nearing the water show, which erupted every 15 minutes, I hoped the crowd would help me lose him. I weaved through tourists, keeping my eyes peeled. The Mirage was now in sight, and I quickened my pace. "Hey man!" a voice called behind me. My heart raced, but I ignored it, hoping he'd go away. "Yo dude!" The same voice, closer this time. I turned to see him again, his eyes fixed on me. "You sure you don't have any money? I saw you buy that drink and candy bar," he said, his tone more insistent. "My dad's calling me," I lied, pulling out my phone to avoid further conversation. All right, I'm Jerry, by the way," he said, extending his hand. I shook it reluctantly. "Nice to meet you, Jerry." But I knew he wasn't telling the truth about his name. His hesitation before saying it gave him away. Turning back toward the Mirage, I heard his footsteps following me. Panic set in. What did he want? Why wouldn't he leave me alone? Inside the hotel lobby, I looked around desperately for a way to lose him. I spotted a group of women entering a gift shop and quickly joined them, pretending to browse the gaudy souvenirs. Through the window, I saw Jerry scanning the lobby, looking for me. I held my breath, waiting for him to leave. After what felt like hours, he finally walked back toward the entrance. I waited a few more minutes before cautiously making my way to the elevators. The doors opened, and I stepped in, pressing my floor number and the close button repeatedly. The doors shut just as Jerry re-entered the lobby. Back in the safety of my room, I locked the door and collapsed on the bed, my heart still pounding. What if he had caught up to me? What was he really after? That night I lay awake, replaying the encounter over and over in my mind. Jerry's face, his persistent eyes, haunted me. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, even from the supposed safety of our hotel room. The rest of our trip was a blur of forced smiles and half-hearted sightseeing. I stayed close to my family, never venturing out alone again. The city that had promised excitement and adventure had delivered something far more disturbing. Months later, back in Cedar Ridge, the memory of that night in Las Vegas still lingers. I can't help but wonder what Jerry's true intentions were. The bright lights of Vegas had cast dark shadows, turning a dream vacation into a nightmare I'll never forget.
Well, I can tell you this. If you even handed him some money, he probably would have pulled out a blade and threatened you to hand it all over to him. If not, he was going to get you. You walk down them barely lit streets, you never know who's hiding there waiting for somebody to ask for money. But man, that's creepy that he actually followed you all the way to the hotel. At that point, I would have went to the security team there at the hotel and tell them what's going on and see if they can get him out. Luckily, he didn't see him in that gift shop and ran to the elevator to get to his room quick, and he didn't find out where he was staying at. But thank God he chose to stay with his family for the rest of the trip, because if he didn't, he probably would have ran into him somewhere again. But luckily, he was able to make it back home in one piece. He should not have to worry about that guy anymore. But that's another reason why I would not want to go to Vegas, because of creepy people like that showing up. All right, let's get on to story number 2.
It was the summer of 2005. I remember it so vividly because it was the first time our family decided to vacation outside of the United States. My parents had picked a charming, off-the-beaten-path island in the Caribbean, hoping to avoid the typical tourist traps and experience something more authentic. I was 14, eager for adventure, but still naive about the dangers that could lurk in unfamiliar places.
Well, that sounds like a cool idea. Stay away from the touristy areas because, yeah, it does get a little hectic with a lot of people crowding the place. But then you get to experience the authentic parts of the Caribbeans in a certain smaller town and try that Caribbean cuisine. Sounds nice to me. This person is right. Even if you go to another country, danger will always be lurking around. You got to keep your eyes and ears open and alert at all times.
We stayed in a small, family-run hotel on the outskirts of a tiny village. The place was quaint, with colorful buildings and friendly locales, but there was an underlying sense of poverty that I couldn't ignore. The contrast between our comfortable accommodations and the modest homes of the villagers was stark. One evening, after a day of exploring hidden beaches and sampling local cuisine, my parents decided to head out to a nearby restaurant recommended by the hotel staff. It was a bit of a walk, but the weather was perfect, and the setting sun cast a golden hue over everything. As we walked, I noticed how the village seemed to transform at night. The bustling marketplace we had visited earlier was now eerily quiet, with only a few dim streetlights casting long shadows on the deserted streets. "Are we sure we're going the right way?" I asked, feeling a bit uneasy as the vibrant village we had seen during the day turned into a maze of dark alleys. "Don't worry, we're almost there," my dad replied, checking the map the hotel manager had drawn for us. Suddenly, we heard footsteps behind us. I turned to see a man walking briskly in our direction. He wore a tattered jacket, and his face was obscured by a hood. My heart began to race. Why was he following us? "Maybe we should hurry up," I suggested, trying to keep the fear out of my voice. "Relax, honey," my mom said, though I could hear the tension in her voice too. "He's probably just heading home." We picked up the pace, but so did the man. The narrow alley we were in seemed to stretch endlessly before us. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Then the man called out to us, "Hey, wait up!" His voice was rough, almost menacing. What do you want? My dad asked, turning to face him. I need help. My sister is sick. She's just around the corner, but I can't carry her by myself. Please, can you help me? The man's voice was desperate, but something felt off. His eyes darted around nervously and his hands fidgeted inside his pockets.
That'll be red flag number one right there for me. He's probably nervous trying to lure you over to an alleyway, and it's probably not no woman there. It's probably a bunch of other men waiting to nail them. And I bet you that if he pulled his phone out to call for 911, he'll probably say, no, there ain't no time for that. Then that'd be red flag number two. At that point, I'd be like, look, you either accept official police help or me and my family are going. But man, I hope they don't fall into this guy's trap.
I looked at my parents, hoping they'd refuse, but my dad was already stepping forward. Where is she? He asked. Just follow me, the man replied, turning down a side alley. Every instinct in my body screamed that this was a bad idea. Dad, don't, I pleaded, grabbing his arm. Something's not right. Stay here with your mother, he said firmly. I'll be right back. As my dad followed the man into the darkness, my mom and I waited anxiously. Minutes felt like hours. The alley was silent, except for the distant hum of nightlife in the village. Then I heard a muffled cry. Dad! I screamed, but my mom held me back. We both stood frozen, unsure of what to do. Then we saw them, 2 more men emerging from the shadows, their faces hidden by scarves. They moved towards us with a predatory grace, and I knew we were in serious trouble. Run! My mom shouted, pushing me forward. We sprinted back the way we came, but the men were faster. They caught up to us easily. One grabbed my mom and the other seized me, covering my mouth with a rough, calloused hand. Where's your husband? One of them hissed at my mom. She didn't answer, just struggled fiercely against his grip. But she was no match for him. They began to drag us back towards the alley where my dad had disappeared. My mind raced. What could they possibly want? Money? We had left most of our valuables back at the hotel. Or was it something more sinister? As we were pulled into the dark alley, I saw my dad lying on the ground, unconscious but breathing. Relief flooded through me for a moment before the terror set back in. The first man was rummaging through my dad's pockets, clearly looking for something. Please, just let us go, my mom begged. Take whatever you want. The man with the hood looked up, his eyes cold and calculating. We want more than that, he said. Much more. At that moment, headlights flooded the alley, and a loud horn blared. The men froze, then cursed under their breath before darting into the shadows. A car pulled up, and the hotel manager jumped out, yelling in the local dialect. He had come looking for us when we didn't show up at the restaurant. He helped us to the car, my dad groaning as he regained consciousness. You're lucky, the manager said. This area isn't safe at night. You should never have trusted that man. Back at the hotel, we reported the incident to the local police, but we never heard back. The rest of our vacation was a blur of anxiety and relief that we had escaped unharmed. It wasn't until years later that I fully understood how close we had come to a far more tragic fate. The beautiful island paradise now held a dark, disturbing memory that I would never forget.
I mean, I even said, don't go down that dark alley because I figured it was going to be a trap. And his son even known. But I mean, his dad should have seen what was going to happen and knock that other guy down to the ground and go back before those other two popped out of nowhere. But what else would they want if they said they left all the valuables back in their hotel? It would be messed up if they took the woman and did some naughty things to her, you know. But thank God the hotel manager found them and got them out of that scary alleyway. But man, I wish the police were able to find them guys, put them away for attacking a family on vacation. I mean, that's just wrong. But if they never get caught, I know they'll meet their judgment when their time comes to leave this earth.
Our family vacation to the remote cabin in the Appalachian Mountains was supposed to be a peaceful getaway from the hustle and bustle of city life. My parents, my older sister Emily, and I were all looking forward to the fresh mountain air, scenic hikes, and nights spent around the fireplace.
Now, that's a vacation I would like to go to. Nothing beats going into mountains and breathing that fresh mountain there and looking at the trees and staying in the cabin, that'll be something I'll sign up for 100%, no questions asked. Especially the Appalachian Mountains. A lot to do, that's for sure. Depending on which part of the state you're in, of course.
Little did we know, this trip would become a nightmare etched into our memories. It was our second night there when things started to feel off. The cabin itself was beautiful, nestled among towering pines, with a picturesque view of the valley below. But it was isolated, far more isolated than I'd imagined. No neighbors, no cell service, just the four of us surrounded by miles of wilderness. "Did you hear that?" Emily whispered as we sat by the fireplace. The crackling of the logs was the only sound in the room. I strained my ears but heard nothing unusual. "No, what did you hear?" I asked, trying to hide the unease creeping into my voice. "It sounded like footsteps. Outside." My parents laughed it off, attributing it to the sounds of the forest, maybe a deer or some other wildlife. But Emily and I exchanged worried glances. We both knew what we'd heard wasn't an animal. The footsteps were too deliberate, too human. The next morning, we went for a hike. The forest was dense and beautiful, but my mind kept drifting back to the footsteps. Was someone out there, watching us? I tried to shake off the feeling, focusing on the trail ahead. As we climbed higher, Emily nudged me. "Look at that," she said, pointing to a small clearing. In the center, there was a crude structure made of branches and leaves, almost like a makeshift shelter. "Who do you think made that?" I asked, my heart beginning to race. "I don't know. Maybe a hunter or someone camping out here?" But there were no campsites nearby, no trails leading to this spot. It didn't make sense.
Oh, I can tell you right now, after listening to different shows about Bigfoot, they are known to make structures out of trees and leaves. So I guarantee you that was probably a Sasquatch that made it, because no human would take the time to build a shelter like that unless they were really deep in the woods and didn't bring no tent with them. But they just need to keep their eyes and ears open and be on the lookout. You never know if you might find the person or thing responsible for making that structure.
We decided to head back, a silent agreement that we'd seen enough. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the cabin, every rustle of the leaves outside made me jump. Around midnight, I heard it again. Footsteps, this time closer. I held my breath, straining to listen. They stopped right outside my window. "Mom! Dad!" I called out, my voice barely more than a whisper. They came rushing in, panic in their eyes. "What is it, honey?" my mom asked, her voice trembling. "Someone's outside. I heard them." My dad grabbed a flashlight and went to the door. "Stay inside," he ordered. We huddled together, the beam of his flashlight cutting through the darkness as he stepped out onto the porch. Minutes felt like hours. When he finally came back in, his face was pale. "There's nobody out there," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "It's probably just your imagination." But I knew it wasn't. Emily and I both heard it. The next day, we found something chilling. On the porch, scrawled in the dirt, were the words, "I see you." "Who would do this?" Emily asked, her voice shaking. "Why?" "We're leaving," my dad said, his face set in grim determination. We packed up quickly, hearts pounding, and drove down the winding mountain road, not looking back. As we left, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Who was out there? What did they want? I'll never know, but one thing is certain. We were not alone in those mountains. Someone or something was out there, and it was watching us. We never spoke of it again, trying to leave the terror behind. But sometimes, late at night, I hear those footsteps in my dreams, and I wake up, heart racing, wondering if it was all real or just a figment of my imagination. But deep down, I know the truth. We were being hunted, and we were lucky to escape.
Okay, I was wrong. I thought a Bigfoot would have been out there lurking around the cabin, but if the dad saw the words "I see you" drawn into the dirt near the cabin, then it ain't no Sasquatch. The Sasquatch would not write words. If they did, I'll be astonished. But you discovered this guy's little shelter in the woods, and now you wanted to figure out where you guys are staying at. Probably a mentally disturbed man or a dangerous criminal. But it is the right thing and leave, because if they didn't, that guy would have been going back and forth to the cabin and scaring the crap out of him even more, probably. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on those post notifications for more Creepy Diaries reaction content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man's Quarter channel. I'm your host, Jeff for Tin Man Taylor. That's a wrap, and that's day off.